Every week it feels like there is a new food recall in the headlines. Lettuce, eggs, soup, seasoning, sunflower seeds, even dog food. If you have felt like the shelves are less trustworthy than they used to be, you are not imagining the noise. But the real story behind this surge is more complicated than food simply getting more dangerous, and understanding it changes how you should actually shop. Start with the numbers, because they tell two very different stories depending on which one you look at. According to a 2026 industry analysis from the risk firm Sedgwick, food and drink recall events hit a 6-year high for the first quarter of this year, climbing from 127 events in early 2025 to 140 in early 2026. At the same time, the number of recalled units actually dropped year over year from about 70 million units down to about 57 million. So recalls are happening more often, but each one on average is touching fewer products than the massive recalls of a year earlier. That is not the pattern of a food system falling apart. It is closer to a system tightening its own screws. So what is actually driving the increase in events? The single biggest cause, by a wide margin, is undeclared allergens. In the first quarter of 2026 alone, 57 separate recalls were tied to allergens that were not properly listed on packaging, most commonly milk and soy, with a handful involving gluten. Foreign material contamination, things like plastic or metal fragments ending up in food, came in second with 24 events. Bacterial contamination from pathogens like Listeria and Salmonella rounded out the top 3. Across the full 2026 report, allergens accounted for roughly 39% of all recalls, while pathogen outbreaks were responsible for the majority of the most serious cases. Now here's the part that matters most if you actually want to understand why this is happening instead of just reacting to the headlines. Food safety experts keep pointing to the same underlying explanation, and it is not that ingredients are dirtier than they used to be. It is that detection has gotten dramatically better. Laboratory testing, genetic sequencing of pathogens, and supply chain traceability have all advanced enough that contamination, which would have gone completely unnoticed a decade ago, now gets caught, flagged, and pulled from shelves before it ever reaches widespread illness. One food safety researcher put it simply, saying that better detection and stepped-up surveillance can make recalls look like a crisis when they are actually evidence the safety net is working. But detection technology is only half the explanation. The other half is structural, and it is a trend that is only accelerating. Consumer demand for ready-to-eat and prepackaged meals has surged, and those products are riskier by design because they skip the cooking step that would normally kill off something like Listeria before it ever reaches your plate. On top of that, food production has become more globalized than ever, with ingredients crossing multiple countries and multiple manufacturing facilities before they become a finished product. Every additional link in that chain is another point where contamination can slip in, and another blind spot where nobody is watching closely enough. Regulation is shifting too. Evolving FDA policy on food coloring, allergen labeling, and country of origin claims is raising the compliance bar for manufacturers, and some analysts argue that stricter enforcement itself is part of why more companies are issuing recalls now, rather than quietly hoping a problem goes unnoticed. There is also a more uncomfortable factor that some industry voices are willing to say out loud, which is basic quality control mismanagement. A turnaround specialist who consults with manufacturers pointed to a general decline in attention to detail across industries, along with companies failing to build the kind of accountability processes that catch mistakes before a product ever ships. Put all of that together and you get the recall landscape we are living in right now. Sharper detection tools that catch more problems, a food supply that has grown longer, more global, and more complex, with more places for something to go wrong. regulatory pressure pushing companies to disclose rather than bury issues, and in some cases, plain human error at the manufacturing level. None of this means you need to be afraid of your grocery store. It means the system is doing more of what it is supposed to do, catching problems and telling you about them, even if that makes the news cycle feel relentless. The most useful thing you can do as a consumer is pay attention to the recalls that actually affect you, especially if you or someone in your household has a food allergy, since that is now the #1 driver of recalls in the country. Check expiration dates and lot numbers before assuming a recalled product is not the one in your pantry, and take undeclared allergen recalls seriously, even when they seem minor, because for someone with a severe allergy, minor is not a word that applies. If this kind of story matters to you, hit that like button so more people see it, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Stay safe and stay tuned, because these stories only get told if enough of us are paying attention.